What's up, guys? It's Pat back again with another video. I know after a 6-month gap between my first and second, having a couple day gap between my second and third feels crazy. But like I said, I really want to do this. I want to make videos. I'm going to go a little bit more easy on myself and allow myself to misspeak a little bit or to stutter, because I want to make these videos for you guys and I want to help you get to where you want to go. Couple things. My hair is extremely unruly right now. I'm sorry. I had a hat on last video. I need a haircut. I know. One other thing, I added a stethoscope to my little table here. Just adding a little bit medical flair. It's for you guys, all right? So today we're gonna talk about the MCAT, all right? One little note I wanna add here right at the beginning. This is not gonna be the all-encompassing guide to the MCAT, all right? There are so many resources out there. Thousands and thousands and thousands of videos that will go so in depth on every piece of the MCAT and how to excel and how to succeed. And you know, not all of those are going to work for every single person. I think it's important for you guys to take what I'm saying, to hear my story from a broad perspective, how I got from where I was to where I am in regards to the MCAT. Take that as a framework, and then do your own research. Look into each section that we're gonna discuss, okay? Think about what is gonna work best for you. Start digging into it, find out what works best for you, right? And then lock into that and hit it hard. But again, this is a broad overview. This is not an in-depth explanation of the MCAT, okay? So let's hear what I did, all right? So there's 4 sections, I found this out. Biological and biochemical foundations of living systems, biochem. Okay. We have chemical and physical foundation of biological systems, or chem-phys. We have psychological, social, and biological foundations of behavior, or psych-soc. And then we have critical analysis and reading skills, or CARS. A lot of words. Use the abbreviations that I told you, of course. So the MCAT is scored between a 472 and a 528. Average being a 500 right in the middle, okay? So I think the average acceptance to a US MD is around 512. It's a little bit lower for DO, but you can look all that information up. There's a whole different spectrum, and it's just, you know, you can look all that stuff up for each school and the national averages for all schools, okay? So why is it scored between those points? I don't know. I have no clue. But every single section can go from a 118 to a 132. So if you add 132 up, you get 528. If you want to add 118 times 4, or you multiply, you get that 472. I think it's 118. I think so. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird scoring, but that's what it is. If you listen to my last video, you found out that I wanted to self-study the MCAT. I was going to apply to one of the schools that didn't require prereqs. I was going to self-study the MCAT, I was going to crush it, I was going to get into school, it was going to be all good, everything was going to be great. I bought MCAT books pretty much a week into orientation of nursing, right after I graduated. I started to self-study and realized that I had no clue what the hell was going on. And I realized pretty immediately that I needed to take classes. You know, maybe not all the prereqs, again, watch the last video, but I needed to take some. And again, along with working as an ICU nurse, a brand new ICU nurse, I took time. I started classes my next year, and I decided to supplement what I was taking in my classes with things from the MCAT so that I could sort of 2 birds, 1 stone, and I could make the most of my time and be the most efficient. So anyways, looking at the MCAT, there's those 4 sections. 2 of those sections, the psych-soc and the CARS, are 2 sections that do not require any science background. You look at all those classic med school prereqs, none of those are required for those sections. So in my mind, I said, wow, these are 2 awesome opportunities for me to crush these sections. So when I crush these sections, when my other 2 sections aren't as good, overall, I'll still be doing pretty well, okay? And that's actually what ended up happening. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So with psych-soc, immediately, this was my target. I was gonna smash this. No excuse not to. I use Khan Academy, which has a bunch of videos for psych-soc, okay? Apparently it has everything you need, and I would agree because I scored very well on it, and I use that. All these videos for psych-soc, and then I also use this thing, this Facebook community for pre-med and MCAT. It's called MCAT Bros. Now the official page that I use is called MCAT Preparation Study Group plus Pre-Med plus Med Application. And MCAT Bros has like, that page has like 40,000 followers, so it's pretty well known in the MCAT pre-med arena, but it was great for me. They had a free resource on there called, I think, a 300-page psych-soc document, which took all of those Khan Academy videos, put it into words, and just put it in a 300-page document. So I watched all the videos, I did all the practice questions on Khan Academy, and then I read that massive document. I'd be on night shift with my iPad, scrolling through patient in my right eye, learning about, Freud in my left eye, and just had to do it, right? Okay, so then next, a great resource that I used, and I'll tell you now because I used it for psych-soc, was UWorld. Now, I used UWorld for the NCLEX a long time ago, or 4 years, I guess at this point, not a long time ago, but it was great. And the great thing about UWorld is that it's an online question bank, and the explanations for the answer that was correct, as well as all the answers that were wrong, are phenomenal. So if you actively study and you use it to its highest level, you can actually pretty much take each question and make it into 4 questions. Look at all the explanations, all of the reasoning for why what was wrong, and you could think, how could they formulate this in a way that would make this wrong answer the correct answer, right? So, phenomenal resource. Next thing I did with as well was the AAMC, which is the American Association of Medical Colleges. They have practice questions and practice tests. Now, this is not third-party stuff, right? These are the people that make the tests. Great resource. You have to check it out, okay? So that's how I did well in psych-soc. Then you have CARS, and I could make another video on CARS because it wasn't as straightforward to me as just memorizing this stuff like psych-soc is. For me, it was very much a mental game. How could I get myself as focused, right? And as in control, and how could I just get myself in the state of mind that would allow me to pick up every word that I'm reading, internalize it, and use that to answer questions. If you're not familiar with CARS, I should probably tell you what it is. It's just a massive paragraph, and there's like 5 to 7 questions at the end. Everything you need to know to answer each question is contained in the paragraph. So we'll do a whole other shorter video on that. I hope this one doesn't go too long. But okay, the next 2 sections were the sections that I realized, and I was at peace with the fact that I would not do as well on them. First one, you have biochem. So bio 1, bio 2, which I had taken, and biochem, which I had not taken. So I, again, used my MCAT materials to supplement what I was learning in class with MCAT things, which helped me with the bio 1 and bio 2 aspects of it. Now, biochem I hadn't taken. I was very interested outside, so I've heard of some of the things, and from working, I had sort of heard in passing some of these pathways, but I used the MCAT books, and then I also used UWorld. And I use UWorld as really a primary study resource. When I would get a question wrong, the reasonings, right, and the explanations would give like full metabolic pathways, and I would use that to study metabolic pathways. I would use that to study things like amino acids, which are of utmost importance on the MCAT. And the second you start learning about the MCAT, you'll see that exactly. You have to know amino acids, just side note, inside and out, every single little thing about them. And that was one thing for me, amino acids, and you'll start to encounter things like amino acids as you study the MCAT. It's like, there is no excuse for me not to know this. The difference between me knowing this and me not is literally sitting there and staring at them, or using mnemonics, or finding ways to work it out in my brain and just memorizing them. There's no excuse. Stuff like that, no excuse. And you'll see things just like that, okay? So anyways, got through biochem, and then for chem phys, this was Gen Chem 1 and 2, Organic 1 and 2, Physics 1 and 2. Now, if you remember from last video, I had never taken Organic Chemistry 1 and 2, but I did end up taking Physics after the MCAT. But so half of the section in my preparation for the MCAT I had never taken, right? So I was fully understanding this would be my worst section. It did end up being my worst section, but I was still able to get a little bit above the average, which is great. Definitely lucky, and probably a big reason as to why I'm here. But with the Gen Chem 1 and 2, I was able to supplement what I was learning in classes with things on the MCAT with my books and also with a lot of the stuff on UWorld and then eventually the AAMC practice questions, right? For organic chemistry and physics, it was tougher. This is when I actually had to dig deep and do a little bit of self-studying. Again, also accepting that I wouldn't crush this section. But physics, I learned equations, I applied equations, I did my best. I used UWorld, I used the explanations of UWorld to help me understand why I got that question wrong and to look at the other 3 wrong answers and figure out other questions that could be asked. I don't want to say I winged it or wung it, whatever it is, but I was not as prepared as I would like to have been. But I also, and this is the same with organic chem, I did the exact same thing to learn it. I used pattern recognition of what I saw in UWorld, of what I saw in the AAMC practice questions. And I looked at it as this is 1/16 of the MCAT. Now, this may not be the most popular point of view or probably not the most suggested point of view, but that's what it was for me. This is 1/16 of the test, 1/16 of the test, or this is 1/8 of the test, excuse me, 1/8 of the test. If I can hold my weight on all the other 7/8 of the test, if this 1/8, I can get 50% of it right, maybe I'll do okay. And it ended up working out like that. So, a couple things, just from an overall MCAT perspective, okay? It's really highly suggested to take a diagnostic exam towards the beginning of your studying. So you have an idea of how much time you need to study. Someone like me, who had to do a lot of self-studying, who didn't have a great foundation in these classes, I put a lot of time in. I was also working and in class, right? But I studied for like 6 months. Some people study for 3, right after school, so it's still fresh. Some people study for 2, for 1. Some people study for a year. Some people study for 2, right? You got to take a diagnostic. You should take a diagnostic and get an idea of how long you need to study to get to your goal score. Now, on to goal score. When you look at the schools that you're interested in applying to, they're going to have average MCAT scores, right? So that's 50% above, 50% below. Okay, but you have to take the whole picture in. My undergrad GPA wasn't stellar, right? I had other things going for me, absolutely, but I knew I needed to do well in the MCAT. I knew it. And one thing you do is get an idea of what your goal score is. You take the diagnostic, have a gauge for how long you need to study. Then when you're getting towards the end of your studying, right, you want to take practice tests. Now again, the AAMC practice tests are going to be the gold standard. You want to take them because if your goal score is not what you were getting or not near what you were getting on your practice test, taking the real MCAT is a waste of money, right? It is going to not look fantastic on your application. It just there's no reason to do it. You're not going to score a bunch of points over on the real MCAT of what you were scoring on your practice MCATs. It just does not happen. They're really great gauges for where you're at. So you need to have your practice exams in range of where you want to score on your real MCAT. So finally, I wrote down here, would I suggest what I did? Now, when I say that, I mean, would I suggest taking the MCAT without having actually taken the class physics 1 and 2 or organic chemistry 1 and 2? Now, for me, it worked out. I was able to do well on the 3 other sections, and I did fine on that section. Not what I could have done if I took the classes, but I did fine. But I was able to do well in the 3 other sections, especially the 2 non-science-based sections, like I had planned to, and it worked out because I pulled up my whole score. But I knew one thing, and that's that I needed to try. Right? I wanted to study for the MCAT. I was juiced up to study for it. I was so excited to study for it. I was so excited to put this effort in that I knew if I said, no, like you need to wait another year before you have organic chemistry and physics under your belt. I couldn't have done that. It's like I needed to try. I couldn't just sit there not trying. Now, if my practice tests weren't where they wanted to be, that's a different story, but they were where I wanted them to be, right? So I just knew I needed to try. I had no choice, but I needed to try. And luckily it worked out. But the question is, Pat, like, what if you ended up not getting the MCAT score that you needed, or you got a good score and you didn't get into school? What do? And you saw the MCAT as this way to delineate yourself from other applicants. What do? Well, you study again, right? You alter your study strategy. You figure out what worked for you the first time, you figure out what didn't work for you, and you take both of those things, you integrate what worked, you get rid of what didn't, and you add new stuff in, right? You adapt, and you do it again, and you work harder, and you put more effort in until you get that score that you want to get, until you get the score that you need to get. There's not really, there's no magic potion, there's no easy way about it, right? And it's probably easier for me to say it considering I didn't have to do it twice, but that was my mindset throughout the whole thing. So that's kind of the video for today. Like I said, there's tons and tons of MCAT resources. You can spend days and weeks looking through all that stuff. And I highly suggest you do, but I hope that this is a framework, right? This gets you started in the right direction. This is what I did. This is how I got from my undergrad in nursing to getting into medical school. This is how I approach the MCAT. And yeah. All right, guys. I look forward to the next video, and we'll talk soon, all right? Peace and love.